We are live. We are live finally with off the wall baseball. Technical issues again. I know it's a new thing here at Ellis highlight reel, but I'm trying to get through it. And if you hear that, they're doing some new trains. I live next to railroads all my life, so it's some new train system that's going on. That's doing tours and stuff like that. So you might hear that horn every so often. But my name is Brandon Ellis, as always, live here on Ellis Highlight Reel. And I have my boy Chris, my main host for Off the Wall from Total Apex Media. Say what's up, Chris, and intro us.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Off the Wall baseball podcast here in our new location. Our second week being here. So if you missed last week, make sure to go check out the previous video on YouTube and make sure to watch that one as well. That was our sort of our launching pad here at our new location. But it's still the same content, right? We're still going to be covering the news, covering all things baseball here. So same people, just a different location, a different wrapping paper, if you will.
Yes.
But we're excited for that. We got a good amount of actually news that happened over the past week. So I think we should just get right into it, right, Brandon? And we'll kick it off with some of the Guardians' injuries yesterday.
Yes.
Cleveland obviously being the leader right now in that AL Central. But with Jose Ramirez going down, obviously he's a massive hole to fill. Not just as a player statistically. He's such a well-rounded player. One of the most underrated players, I'd argue, in the league, actually, because he's just so consistent at everything. But also just for his leadership abilities, his defense. He's sort of the total package. So what do you think? How does this impact the Guardians? How does it impact the AL Central in general? What are they going to do to fill some of these holes that are opening up now for that team?
Yeah, the Ramirez one is the biggest one, but the Lauder is also an important one too because their outfield depth is still kind of weak. And as a JMU alum, I have to shout out the Lauder in this discussion too. He's been playing. He had a great April. He's kind of tapered off a little bit from what I've seen. Though as the season's gone, but he's still in the lineup every day for the Guardians until he crashes into the wall. Ramirez, it was on a strikeout. He was, swinging the bat, broke the hamate bone. That was like the third main instance of hamate bone injuries this year, fourth if you include Carroll's, but Lindor's and Holiday's hamate bone. So we know what the hamate bone injury is now, and everything like that. And it's been crazy, for sure. So that will be the one that be the devastating one. And I can't remember the third player was also a main lineup guy, but I can't remember his name off the top. I think he hit a foul ball off his leg. I think it was, and so it hurt his ankle or something like that. So there's that. And everything like that too. So I'm in the mindset right now where we're at and everything. The Cleveland Guardians are going to be. It's tough because J Ram's been their best one of their best players this year. But they have such a big lead in that division right now. It's even though the AL is kind of muddled overall still. They're one of the teams that has a strong foundation in that division as the leader right now. Let me look real quick at the standings. While I keep on muddling on, like J Ram's, like I said, J Ram is one of those players that was going to be an all-star, but this hamate bone's going to put him out probably past the all-star break at this point, I would think. In that situation. Now, actually, I take it back. The White Sox are now in the lead in the division. I'm looking at it live right now. They're tied, technically, for the division lead. This is a half game. Well, Cleveland's 39-33, and the White Sox are 38-32. So ESPN technically has them first because of the better winning percentage at 543 to 542. So it's it's razor's hair that Cleveland's
Yeah.
played one more game to Chicago, or maybe two more games to Chicago. It's it's that point of the year, but they're both above 500, and that's the thing. If Chicago can get momentum out of this and Cleveland can't keep up, that might cost them you know,
Yeah.
might cost them the division and might have to put them in the wild card situation, which muddles up the wild card situation even more, for sure. Because you still got, and that's the thing now too with Yankees in the league. Tampa's the first wild card, and you have to look at that. It's like, and yeah, the wild card situation's crazy now with the Cleveland injuries and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's the teams. It's just the fact that some of these teams still have a shot, like poor Baltimore. They're trying, but it's like at the same time they had 10 hits today against the Padres, only scored 2 runs, and when Mason Miller comes on for 4 outs, you're not going to get a run. Like you're not, and so it was crazy. Another crazy loss.
There's another situation with a weird number of games played because the Red Sox have the same number of losses as Baltimore, but have played 5 less games than them. So have the 5 less wins. I don't even know how that happens. I mean, I know it's June, but how have we played 5 less games than like anybody else?
That's crazy. That's insane.
When I looked at that, yeah,
that's insane. I think Boston will catch up on a couple of those. I don't think any of those were impacted. You might know better than I do, but were any of those impacted by weather? For weather delays?
One of them was a weather thing. There was a weather game that was postponed this week for them, actually. I forget who they were playing. That may have been. Did we play Detroit this week? Somebody in the central-ish area, I think it was. We had postponed for rain, or maybe it was a Yankee game. It might have been one of the Yankee games, actually. Now that I think about it, I know we had one of those games postponed. We may have played a doubleheader for that, though. I can't remember either.
I got you.
Yeah, and I think we had one postponed in Boston, too, during that typhoon we had going on when the FIFA World Cup was here.
Those
games were postponed. But by and large, no, I don't remember a lot that have been impacted by weather, which just means that that's going to be a lot less off days than the dog days of summer, for the Red Sox, for better or worse. I mean, so that could exhaust them down the stretch. Although, quite frankly, they don't seem to be competing for all that much anyway. So I'm not sure if exhaustion is going to matter by September either way.
Yeah.
But they won their first series at Fenway Park since April this weekend against Texas, which says all you need to know about how the Red Sox season is going, right?
Yes.
Anyway, sorry, we went off on a tangent here about game. That was totally my fault. But yeah. So what do you think? How do you think Cleveland's going to sort of fill those voids? Do you think they have any depth to be able to fill those voids to be able to stay in this race? Because, the White Sox are outperforming, right, what they were expected to do, right? And obviously we saw, against really good teams like the Dodgers, the White Sox leave some to be desired, right?
We'll get to Yamamoto. We'll get to Yamamoto in a little bit.
Right.
But that Yamamoto game. But I think the Guardians will try to fill it in as best as they can. Kind of a deal. I finally found our lives. We are live on TikTok.
There we go. Love to see
we are live. I finally figured it out.
Welcome TikTok to any of you out there that may tune in.
Yeah. So any of y'all who ain't tuned in, we found it. We figured it out. So, but yeah, no, it's just one of those situations like you said, Chris. It's tough with the Guardians to replace Ramirez. I don't know what their depth is like at third base.
Yeah.
And outfield is the reason DeLauder got called up in the first place. Was because outfield was a tough spot for them last year, and they called them up before their playoff game against the playoff wildcard series against the Tigers. Ironically enough, So it was, it was one of those things they decided to call him up and get the playoff experience instead of waiting until, this year to have him called up. And so there's that too. So that's an interesting dilemma too for the Lauder. I think it's more pressure on Bazanza, Travis Bazanza, second base, who just got caught up a little last month. For them, it's going to be pressure on him to step up in the lineup to keep the offense maintained. For the replacements, as long as DeLauder and Ramirez are out, but more so Ramirez, because obviously J Ram has probably been the heart and soul of the offense this year.
For sure.
For the Guardians. I'll go ahead and look up the stats real quick of the Guardians real quick for the season and to see who's been the leaders. While we're on it still. Rocchio is the leading hits average guy. Martinez, I think that was the other guy that got hurt. It was Martinez.
Yeah.
DeLauder's leading them in RBIs right now too. And everything like that. And Ramirez is leading them in hits. So you have your hits leader gone, your home run leader probably gone for a little bit, and your leading RBI guy gone for a little bit. So that's going to be tough for the Guardians, obviously. Now, when you look at it in totality, J-Ram just got 10 home runs this season. DeLauder's got 7, and then Martinez has 11.
You said, I think all 7 of those DeLauder home runs came in like the first 3 weeks of the season too.
Yeah, so he has not hit the home run in a little bit. He hasn't found the home run swing, but he's still getting decent. He's hitting 263 on the year. Ramirez is surprisingly low for J-Ram standards. He's hitting 239.
Oh wow!
On the season,
that's
and then Martinez is also hitting 239. I guess it's going to be more Rocchio at using like small ball. Looking at it, I mean, maybe Reese Hoskins steps up a little bit for them too. That's another guy they got, and everything like that. And yeah, I'm just looking at it. They might have to call up some guys. And Kwan's having a down year for Stephen Kwan's standards, and he's going to have to step up for sure. He has to go back to what he's known to do. It's like him and Gunnar are like going back to Baltimore for a little. Like I know it's my show. I can go on these tangents, but at the same time, I'll go on these tangents. I'll take the blame for this. But Kwan and Gunnar Henderson are the 2 guys that have been the most disappointing guys this season. Even though Gunner's had some more ups than Stephen Kwan, more consistency than Stephen Kwan, in my opinion. Kwan's only hit 1 home run. Now, Stephen Kwan's not known for the home run ball that much, but he did have a career, like one of his best home run seasons last year, I think, if I remember correctly. Let me look at it again to make sure. 26 stats. Go here. Career 25. Let's see. Home runs. He had 11. He had 14 and 24. So he hasn't really hit the home run ball like in his career. So it's not to be expected, but like he's a high average guy, and that's the thing. When you look at it so far this season, he's still got the walks, more walks and strikeouts. Well, he actually has more walks and strikeouts for one of the first times in his career, other than 24, and 22. But it's just not resulting in hits right now. It's 22. He's only got, he's being patient, but it's not resulting in the hits for him. And the slugging's at 2. Like the OPS is at 585 for Kwan, which is not great. When you look at OPS, you want your stars to have at least a
especially with him being his claim to fame is his hit ability, right? He doesn't have the power. It's all about hitting and getting on base for him. He's similar to Luis Ariz in that way, except with a bit more power than
a little bit more power than Ariz,
but same style of player for sure.
Yes, exactly. And it's been a disappointing year for him, for sure. So, and like when you lose your lose left fielder, lose your right fielder in the same game, it's not It's
No.
not gonna. This is gonna be an uphill battle for Cleveland. I can tell you right now. And I'll tell you this too: the Guardians might fall behind the Royals if the Royals get hot
Mm-hmm.
because of these injuries. I can tell
Yeah.
you that.
Well, the
I
Royals are way behind. The Royals are
yeah.
going to have to do a lot of digging. In fact, I think they're fifth in the division right now.
Oh,
I
they're
think.
fifth. Yeah, they're fifth. I meant
Yeah.
Minnesota. Sorry,
Minnesota. Yeah, there we
I
go.
meant Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Minnesota, I could see. Minnesota's an interesting team. And I mean, Cleveland's a team that sort of was also slightly overperforming what people expected,
yeah,
right? Similarly to the White Sox. Um, but yeah, anytime you lose three starters, including two of them being your starting outfielders, that's not ideal, unless of course you're the Red Sox who has seven outfielders and no other position on the
yeah,
roster, in which case you can handle losing two
uh,
outfielders. But
yeah,
any other team that actually had built the correct roster, a
yeah,
normal roster, can't
yeah.
usually withstand that. So
No,
it'd be interesting to see what Cleveland does, and I mean, thankfully, for better or worse, they are in the AL Central, right? Where
yep,
the two teams that were expected to be the best, the solid teams are at the bottom,
yep,
and every other team is sort of overperforming. So they
yep,
have a little bit of leeway. Because you
yep,
would think there'd be potentially some regression towards the mean for the White Sox. The Twins are really a 500 team to me. That's sort
yep,
of where they constantly hover. So Cleveland has a little bit of wiggle room there, but we'll
yep.
we'll, we'll see what happens. And just really quickly to add to your comment about players that have been super disappointing. A quick little tiny bit of news for Bo Bichette
Yes.
with the Mets, who's been, in my opinion, he might be my worst performing player, my most underperforming player so
Yep.
far this season. But he's come out and there's murmurings, there's reports that he plans on opting out of his contract already and leaving the Mets at the end of this off season. Which
That would be a blow for the Mets for
it
sure
would
if
be a
that
huge
happened.
blow for the Mets, and I think it would be a blow for him. Like I'm not sure. I mean, unless he turns it on in the second half of the year and fixes some of his stats. If this
Yep.
ends up his season, I mean, he didn't have a great market, particularly this offseason. I can't imagine it's going to get better after a season like this, but
Yeah,
it sounds like
exactly.
he's just absolutely miserable in New York, from what I'm gathering. So,
Yep.
I mean, I could see that if he's really having that little fun. And, there's murmurs of Juan Soto, same thing, being kind
Yep.
of miserable in New York. So whatever's going on with the Mets there, if that's the case, and if there are several players that are really, really not enjoying their time there, they've got to figure out. And we talked about this before, but they really kind of got to figure that out, because if they have players like Bo Bichette leaving, after
Mhm.
one season, even after a bad season, opting out just to get out of there, that's
Right.
certainly not going to encourage players to want to come there moving forward either, for
Mhm.
sure. But we'll transition, staying on sort of the AL Central and the White Sox a little bit. We'll transition into that game we alluded to earlier, which was Yamamoto for the Dodgers pitch against the
Mhm.
White Sox, and for a while there looked like he might get a perfect game, and then looked for a while there like he might get a no hitter. Ultimately, he got neither of those. He didn't even get a shutout,
Mhm.
because the hit he gave up was a home run.
Just
And
like last year in Baltimore. Just like last year
exactly.
in Baltimore.
You know,
Now this one, the Dodgers had such a big of a lead. They weren't going to lose
yeah,
this game. The
exactly.
one in Baltimore was still kind of a close, like it was close
Yeah,
enough. And we saw what the Orioles rallied
absolutely.
with the bullpen problems they had last year, and now
Absolutely.
give that 7-0 lead. It was impossible, even though the
Yeah,
solo shot um,
yeah.
ruined the no.
Yeah.
The Mookie Betts error was the most
That's what I
shocking
was gonna
thing.
allude to. My old buddy Mookie Betts, and he also, I mean, he's been injured, but
Yeah,
even while he's been playing, he's also had a pretty poor season, for Mookie Betts standards. Not a lot of home runs, very low batting average, and now obviously an error at shortstop, which, I mean, and we forget, because Mookie Betts is so athletic and he's been moved around a lot in his career and kind of does everything pretty well, but he's not a shortstop.
no,
When he was playing second base, you could see some connection there because he came up as a second baseman before the Red Sox moved him ultimately
right.
to the outfield, where he was a Gold Glove outfielder, right?
Mhm.
And then the Dodgers move him back to second base a bit to fill sort of their infield needs, and he did pretty well there. But shortstop's the toughest defensive position in you know in the game, and he's not getting any younger. You
No.
know, I mean, asking him to do that pretty deep into his career, is a tough ask. And obviously nobody wants to be the guy that blows a perfect game with an error. I mean, that's
Mhm.
especially that late. If you have an error in the first inning and right there, that's it, and then at the end of the game you find out that was the only base runner, that stinks. But when it's that late in the game and everybody's just sort of watching and all eyes are on the game, and you do that, that certainly doesn't feel good at all. What are your thoughts on sort of overall, other than the Mookie Betts situation and just
Well,
Yamamoto?
it shows that Yamamoto is still, still performing well. It also shows that, you know, I appreciate Dave Roberts at least letting him come back out for the ninth,
Mhm.
and try to get the no. This time he was closer than he was last year in Baltimore, because I think Holidays was the leadoff. This one he got through 9 in the third,
Mhm.
um, and they got the last two outs, kind of a deal. So I was appreciative of Dave, even though like
Mhm.
Mookie booted the booted the error in the eighth. And sometimes when managers see that too, they don't let him go for the no. And I think Dave Roberts appreciates the history because he's letting his pitchers go for it. So that's good. Once he gave up the home run, he yanked them, which is obvious, which is a smart play. Um, doesn't need to throw any more pitchers or anything like that. Um, and so that was a smart play for the Dodgers. I think Yamamoto is poised to get a no in the near future.
Mhm.
We saw the Astros one a few weeks ago, the combined no, which I think we forgot to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think one of those
Yeah.
from the show and stuff like that.
It was.
So I
We
we
ended up missing it. Yeah. Yeah, which was
so
a
we
big
first,
deal, obviously. First one since 2024. Although it's interesting too, I always, not nothing to take away from it. It's still incredibly impressive. But when it's a combined no,
yeah,
it loses a little bit of something for me. Not just like,
instead of one guy
memorability
going
wise,
9 innings. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
instead of one guy going 9 innings. Yeah, I get that because for me, I like the aesthetic of one guy going through 9, like getting all 27. Not all 27 necessarily, but all,
Yeah.
not allowing a hit. But the combined is, I think, more difficult because it's
Hmm.
from patience. It's more honest catcher to make sure the game
Hmm.
plan still is
Yeah.
intact, in my opinion.
Hmm.
For a combined no, and the defense still has to do its thing, obviously. But different pitchers have different sequences, and they want to do their own thing,
Hmm.
um, and different routines and different pitch types and pitch speeds and mixing speeds, different ideas of mixing speeds. So I think that is more difficult to
Yeah.
see a combined no,
Yeah.
than it is for
It
a
has
standard.
its own set of difficulties, right? I think it's more difficult on the catcher, right?
Yep,
And then on the flip side, you've got the batters who, as we know statistically, right, the third time through the order is
yep,
usually, you know, dramatically easier for hitters to hit, which is why we see so many pitchers now with the analytics there, so many of them ending after 5 innings,
yep,
because analytics tell you that once that pitcher gets to the third time through the rotation, they're going to get blown up. Right,
yep,
third time through the order, they're going to get blown up. So on that side of things, being able to get through it the third time, or potentially going into even the fourth time, depending on
yep.
how many walks there are in the game, how many other, you know, um,
Errors or stuff like that. Other,
exactly, so that can be hard in its own right, right. So
yeah, I agree.
I think when it's one pitcher, it's all on the pitcher. When it's a combined effort, a lot of it's on the catcher, right?
Yep.
But so it depends, for sure. But that was interesting, and hopefully we'll see a couple more of those. It's certainly one of the
I
funnest.
think Yamamoto. I think if we pitch this question real quick, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
If I want to pitch this question to you, who do you think will get the next? If we see another one in 26, who do you think will get it? Will it be Yamamoto? Or do you think somebody else?
I don't think it'll be Yamamoto. I think more often than not, no hitters come from surprising places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's just like one pitcher that maybe a team didn't, you know, doesn't have as much something on, or in the case of David Wells, he goes out there hungover. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know, just something weird that's just different about that day. I mean, if you go down the list of no hitters, I mean, obviously there's some superstar players that have gotten no hitters, there's no question. But you look at
Hmm.
some of our best pitchers of the last 30, 40 years, and the vast majority of them don't have no hitters,
Right.
don't have perfect games, and then you look at the list of pitchers that does it, it would surprise you. So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna. If I had to pick Yamamoto versus the field, I pick the field all day because I think
Yeah.
more often than not it comes from somebody as someone that you don't really
Yeah.
expect it to come from. You know.
I think, to be honest, I think we'll get into Miz in a second,
hmm
but I could see Mizorowski getting it.
He came close. He came real
Yeah.
close this week. He's one of the topics I was going to bring up later. But yeah, he
Yep.
came close. Only one hit in
Yep.
that Maddox game he had.
Yep.
You
Yep. Yeah. I would think Miz is close. I
hmm
think Skeens maybe if he can get if Pittsburgh gives him enough run support and he still has the no, because sometimes Pittsburgh pulls schemes early because of the analytics point you made, even when he's dealing. When he's
Yeah.
like flat out dealing. And I think, you know, that might because they don't want him to get hurt. They don't want, they don't even, so that is one that is a maybe for me. I think Yamamoto might be that guy because how Dave lets his guys pitch if they're like dealing.
He does.
Um,
He does.
so I think Yamamoto has the best shot
Yeah.
because of the manager, his stuff, and he's already been close to two in the last 2 years. So
Yeah.
arguably should have had both of them if it wasn't for fluke. Well, not
Yeah.
really fluke home runs, but they were home runs that were unexpected. Now one of them
Yeah.
turned into a loss, which I'll go to my grave rubbing that game in the Dodgers fans the rest of my life probably as a Baltimore Orioles fan. I'll be like,
hmm
we ruined your no, and then you gave up the walk off. Now, granted, they still
Yeah.
won the World Series last year, so I can't really go into it too much. But that's just a little fun thing I'll do every
Oh
now
yeah.
and then.
For
As the
sure.
Orioles get prepared to go to LA this next
Mhm.
weekend, I just like to bring that up.
Yeah.
And
Another
everything.
name I want to throw out there that could do it too while we're on this topic is Sandy Alcantara. Not even
Oh yeah,
necessarily because of his stats this year, but just because he's probably of any pitcher in the league at this point, he's the one that I consistently expect to go 7, 8, 9
yep,
innings pretty much every time he touches the ball. Right.
yeah,
So
that's a
he's
good one.
just
That's a good
somebody
one.
that's built to go deep into games. So he's a name I'd put out there that would be sort of underestimated to do it. That could
Yep,
be the one that does it. You know, but
I agree
yeah,
with
no,
you.
that is funny that you know, and obviously at the end of the day, Roberts isn't going to lose too much sleep, with the rings he's wearing
No,
now.
that's exactly, and that's
None of
and I
them are
think
gonna,
that, and I
but
think the longer leash he gives his guys, it saves his bullpen.
yeah,
Obviously. So I think that's why I think that is the main thing of why he's giving
mm,
these long leashes and letting these things breathe.
yeah,
And I think most managers let it breathe. If it's something like a perfect game of no hitter.
absolutely.
That's the standard. But I think the Dodgers pitchers have more opportunity, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So I think it's gonna be a Dodger. I think it could be like Yamamoto. I think if Shohei really gets more legs and gets a performance like that pitching, I think Shohei could do it. And I also think Roki had a good week last week as well. So it's one of those situations too where you never know. So with them. But yeah,
Absolutely.
let's get into we'll cover this one real quick before we get to miss. But the Blue Jays had a couple milestone strikeout guys.
hmm
Osman had broke I think 2,000 strikeouts, and then Scherzer got to like 3,500, 3,600
Yep.
over the weekend.
Yep.
So the Blue Jays had a couple of those, and then Freddie Freeman had his 2,500 hit over the weekend too.
Yeah. Yep.
Over the last week.
Yep.
Which of those milestones before we get to the Mizorowski is more impactful, Freeman's or the two Blue Jays guys? Getting those.
I would say the hits only because the way that the league is built right now, strikeouts are up and hits are down. right?
Yeah.
Because we're going with the 3 true outcomes still, right, in the analytics right now. So
Yeah.
walk, strikeout, home run, right? And so I think stringing together a ton of hits, being a hit guy is more
Yeah.
rare than a pitcher getting Ks right now. If it was like an innings type thing, or even a
Yeah.
wins thing, or even saves, although saves are still there more so than wins and innings, but if it was one of those records, I would say, 100% it would be on the pitcher, because just pitchers don't go deep anymore. They don't,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the wins don't matter as much anymore, but when we're looking at strikeouts specifically, there's just so many. Even some of the worst pitchers out there are still, I mean, you look at a game and you're like, oh, 6 strikeouts, that's not good.
Yeah.
And you look at it, it's like, really, 6 strikeouts isn't good anymore. That used to be like a pretty solid outing.
Yeah.
Now it's
Yeah.
like nothing.
Solid.
If
Solid.
you're not
Yeah.
hitting double digits, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Why
Yeah.
why could the batters see you? So that's why I'd go with the hits there.
I think Freddie is. I think Freddie, if he plays a few more years, could get to 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone else after Freddie is going to get to 3,000.
Yeah.
I think this is the last potential 3,000 hit guy for that I could see for right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I obviously Freddie's milestone that he reached earlier this week is more important. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Yeah.
It was good to see Mad Max reach the 3,000 strikeout,
Yeah.
I think 3,500 strikeout mark.
Yeah.
That shows his longevity.
Of course.
And everything like that. And as a guy, as a fan of Mad Max, I'm glad he's still doing his thing and doing well, and everything like that. So, but obviously, Braves fans, Dodger fans, and Freddie Freeman's going to go down as probably one of the best, modern day first basemen of all
And
time.
that was the other thing I was going to say, especially for his position,
Yeah.
which is pretty much anybody that plays first base anymore. You're pretty much only looking for the power there,
Yep.
right? Like that's the only thing teams seem to care about at all at that position. And so to get those amount of hits and still have the power, it's not like he's sacrificing power.
Right.
He's just such a good all around hitter.
And I think if he plays, he's at 2,500 right now, so he needs 500. I think 2 or 3 more seasons of good production, because this season's not finished yet. So he'll get each inch closer, even more probably this season.
Exactly.
To that 3,000 mark. So I'd say 3 and 4 seasons. I think we'll see a Freddie Freeman reach 3,000 if he keeps playing. Granted, he could retire before then too, because he's he's like, I think he's 35, 36 right now. If you look at it, he's getting close up there in age, and we could see him retire. So that's the interesting mark too, because like I said, I think he's the closest to 3,000. Now Mike Trout would have been if he didn't have the injuries, and stuff like that. But the injuries really derailed Mike Trout, for that chase. I'm trying to think some of the other guys that are still playing. Mookie, but Mookie, I don't know off the top of my head if Mookie's even sniffing.
I don't think he's that close, unfortunately. I mean, he had obviously fantastic years with the Red Sox, but I think overall he might be at 2,000. I'm curious. I'll look that up while you keep.
I think 2,000 is going to be the standard now.
Yeah.
For great resumes. I think, and then 3,000 will be the elite hitters now. I think that's where we're going to get into. Obviously, as the years move on, that's what I think. It's just one of those situations where, it's just, when you look at the details and everything like that, it's not going to be one of those situations where you have certain things that go on and 3,000 hits, and I just don't think you're going to see, like, I think Pujols was the last one to do it, the last one to reach 3,000.
Yep.
And it'd be crazy. The last two get there are first baseman, because
I know, right? It really would be. Yeah, that's a fantastic point there. Now, just to throw out there, so Mookie Betts has 1,795, 1,795 right now.
Yeah,
so
that's not.
He's averaging. 2023 he had 179 hits, but the last 2 years, 130, 145. He'll probably be somewhere a little bit lower than that if his pace picks up.
I think
given he's
the league leader
adding
the last
30
years
and he's been hurt. So
The league leaders in hits the last few years have been what 150, 160 at
yeah,
most. So that's
exactly.
the thing. That pace, you're not
Yeah,
going to get the 3,000 hits ever.
yeah,
You're
hundred
hitting that
percent.
pace
100%. Yeah, I didn't think he was all that close. I knew he had a few good seasons, but overall, I was thinking he'd slow down a bit.
because that's the thing too. Ichiro set the pace. Jeter hit that 160, 170 threshold when he got. That's how he got the 3,000 over a 20-year career.
Yep.
I think Freddie had a couple of seasons where he had like close to 200 hits.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's like on that pace.
Yeah.
Over the next 3 to 4 years, if he plays, if that's the key, you have to play those next 3 or 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and still have 100 hits in those seasons. So
Mm-hmm.
and not get hurt. So I think Freddie's been one of the more healthy guys in his career. He hasn't
Yeah,
really had
that's helped
that
him a lot. Yeah.
catastrophic, and
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't had that catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping he reaches it, and I'll be happy for Freddie when he does. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll be interesting to see. But let's get into Mizorowski. So
Yeah, I
you
just about to say,
you Mizorowski, yeah,
speaking of good performances, Mizorowski. Oh, really quickly, actually, while I pull it up. So just so you know, for
yep,
regular season in 2025 hit, Bobby Witt Jr. led the league with 184. Luis
okay,
Ariz had 181 and Bichette had 181. In
okay,
2024, it was Bobby Witt with 211 hits, Luis
okay,
Ariz with 200, and
yep,
Vladdy with 199. And then in 2023, it was Acuna Jr. with 217, Freddie
yep,
Freeman with 211, and then
yep.
Luis Ariz again with 203. Um, so
Okay, so
just,
the 2023 was the last one that had like 3 guys with 200 hits,
yeah,
and
exactly. So 200
every
is
other
rare.
season was
200 is
one,
rare. Yeah.
and then Bobby had 200 in that too. I think Bobby, if he can keep around that, might be the next guy, one of the guys that could do it because he's
Yeah.
really young in his career.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think Bobby, but I just don't know how he started this season. I think it's gonna be 150 tops for
Yeah.
him. I think
Mm-hmm.
that I mean the way he started the season, how he
Yeah.
struggled.
Mm-hmm.
It might be 160 if he really gets hot.
Yeah.
For the Royals, and so that's a tough situation.
Yep.
So, but yeah,
Definitely.
let's get into Mizorowski. We
This year, it looks like nobody's on pace to get 200 either. The highest is Otto Lopez with 96, and we're halfway
yeah,
through the season. So yeah, so Mizorowski had a Maddox this week. For those of you who are watching that don't know what a Maddox is, it's when you throw a complete game shutout with under 100 pitches to do
yep,
it. And typically, right, as Greg Maddox fashion was a low strikeout guy. That's why he was able to go so deep into games, and he kept his pitch count low because of the fact that he was a very contact oriented hitter, right?
mm-hmm,
Mizorowski is certainly not that.
mm-hmm,
He pulled off his Maddox with 15 strikeouts this this
mm-hmm.
uh, this week. And so, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's certainly an unconventional way to do a Maddox, but it
Exactly.
just speaks to where he's at as a pitcher right now, right?
Yeah, so like we were talking about last week on the first iteration of the Ellis High Rail edition of Off the Wall,
Mhm.
we've talked about Mizorowski and how he's the favorite now for NL Cy Young. I think that game really solidified why he's the favorite right now for NL Cy Young. The pull off of Maddox with 15 Ks is insane stuff.
Mhm.
Also, the ballpark he did it into, even though the team he's facing is not that great in Colorado, that ballpark is a hitter's ballpark because of the altitude,
Mhm.
especially during the summer months.
Yeah.
Especially during the months we're in now, that ball flies out of that ballpark easily in Colorado, really easily because of the altitude. And the fact that he was able to get 15 strikeouts, a complete game shutout,
Mhm.
one hit, like
Yeah.
almost had a no hitter as
Yep.
well with this Maddox.
Mhm.
Um, it,
Absolutely.
it was crazy to see. And like I said, in that ballpark,
Yeah.
that's so impressive. I
Mhm.
think it was in Colorado. Was it in
Yeah.
Colorado? Am I right on that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. Because I believe it was the same game actually. Because there was two pieces of news from Miz, right? Not
yeah,
just his 15K Maddox, but he also officially broke the record for hardest thrown ball in a
yes,
game as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
hitting one. they showed it on the board as 105, but it was technically 104.6, which is the
Yeah.
fastest stone pitch in MLB history now as well. So we broke that on top of doing the Maddox too, which I've already talked about my concerns with how hard he's throwing, and how eventually.
No, it was in Milwaukee. It was against Philly. I take it back. It was against Philly in
Okay,
Milwaukee.
fair enough.
No,
Fair
that's
enough.
on me.
But,
That's
but,
on me.
but Philly's, I mean, we've had our debates about Philly too, right? And whether they're
Yeah.
a great team or not. But they're not typically a team that's gonna get no hit necessarily.
Yeah.
Certainly, be dominated in that level of fashion.
Yeah.
So that's certainly quite impressive.
Well, also Milwaukee is also another kind of hit. Used to be really a
Yeah.
great hitter's ballpark too.
It did.
I think
Yeah.
made it more pitcher friendly.
Yeah.
But it's still
Yeah, I believe based on ballpark factors, it's somewhere in the top half of best hitting ballparks, but it's not like the top 5. You know what I mean? I think it's somewhere around 10 to 15, I believe.
Yeah, okay. So it's still one of the top half of the league hitters friendly ballparks. So it's still impressive, and that's his home ballpark. Yeah, so taking all of that back, I do apologize for getting the fact wrong, the stats wrong on that, because that's the thing. I was like, it's been a crazy week with the World Cup and all that stuff, and getting ready for the Knicks winning the title, which we'll talk about heavily tomorrow on the Limitless Range Basketball podcast here on Ellis Highlight Reel. So stay tuned to that tomorrow. We'll talk about the Knicks and winning the title and how the Spurs kind of, death nail was that game 4 and so forth and so forth. We'll break down the whole last few games of the finals and what happened. But back to baseball. But the Mizorowski, that game was insane, and that's the thing too. It was against the Phillies. I don't think it was against Sanchez. I don't think so. I'll have to look at that matchup. Let's see who was pitching real quick. I'm gonna look at it. Who was pitching for? It was Banks, I think. No, it was Painter. Sorry, it was Painter on the mound. Well, Banks, I think they did an opener. They had Banks in Banks in it for that inning, and then they brought Painter in. So I think that's what it was. So that being said, so it was all that matters. It wasn't Sanchez, which would have been even more devastating for Sanchez's Cy Young chances if Mizorowski pitched against him, and that happened. But
definitely.
But yeah, I think it's still the 2-horse race in the NL Cy Young.
I agree.
With Sanchez and Mizorowski, and I still think Mizorowski is going to pull it off. And I think if he keeps on having performances like this, I think he'll definitely pull it off. So it's going to be a crazy year. Down the stretch for NL Cy Young.
I was incredibly curious, so I had to look it up. Just so you know, so the Brewers field, which is now American Family Field. Its ballpark factors is a 100, so it's perfectly neutral. It's right smack dab in the middle.
In the middle.
So there you go.
There it is, right in the middle of all the 32 ballparks, or all 30 ballparks. So let's get into my final thing I'm going to bring up, and I'll let you bring up something at the end too. My final thing I'm going to bring up: Pete Alonso. Had a great end of May. Has had a really great start to June so far. I'm wearing the Polar Bear shirt today for this episode. And he's been hitting ball really well. He's leading the Orioles in home runs at 16, leading them in RBIs. After that slow start, he's finally back to being Pete Alonso. Also want to mention this too, in the Padres series on Friday night, the Orioles' lone win, Gunnar Henderson reached 100 home run milestone for his career already. He was on that for a while. He hit 13. He was on 99 for, I think, 2 to 3 weeks. He had a kind of slow drought. And Orioles manager Craig Abernathy said after that game, he was, I think Gunner's going to have some fun. I think Gunnar went on to have a last 2 games that were kind of subpar against the Padres. So it's been an up and like I said, it's been an up and down year for Gunnar Henderson. But bringing it back to Pete, Pete has had hit the ball well in runners in scoring position over the last, and since I think since like mid May. I want to say since mid May, Alonso has finally found his swing in Baltimore and gotten used to Camden. Um, and how that ballpark plays and everything like that. And then also too, like I think the walk off hit that I was at against the Blue Jays really reinvigorated Pete's season because after that he's been even better. Um, so I just wanted to bring up that and again I think Pete Alonso has probably been out of the last couple of weeks. I think Pete's been the best hitter for the Orioles.
Yeah.
Most consistent. Either him or Rutschman, and I think Rutschman's kind of like had the hamstring tightness and stuff like that. I think Alonso has been the more volatile power hitter
Yeah.
in that lineup. So
And that's really what you needed him to be, right? I mean, that's exactly what he was signed for, was to be that right-handed pure power bat, that can crack a home run at any given time whenever you need him to.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the series against Seattle, he hit the furthest ball all season for the Orioles, home run wise, like 439. It went left center. And that's the thing, and that with the new ballpark, how it played, how the dimensions of left center are in Camden now, that is a tough thing to do. He hit it to the second, like he hit that ball past the first level seats in left center and hit it to the second level seats of left center. So he really crushed that ball, and I think Pete keeps it up. Pete Alonso is going to be. If that's the thing too, we were talking about dark horse MVP races last week with Aaron Judge being out.
Yeah.
I would put Pete in that race. If the Orioles start winning ball games, the problem is the Orioles haven't been really winning ball games consistently. They had a 3-game win streak and now a 2-game losing streak. They win 3, lose 3. They can't find a long win streak right now. And if they do, then maybe you can get a dark horse MVP run for P. Alonso, and if P. Alonso keeps on hitting the way he's hitting, you can get a dark horse.
Definitely improve the overall numbers for a while, but he certainly could be that name if Baltimore, can turn things around. I mean, it certainly, it's getting late enough in the season where it's going to be an uphill battle. No question
Definitely
to do it.
Yeah, I think this year is going to be one of those years for the Orioles that's probably going to be a wasted season. Once again. And there might be more pressure on firing Mike Elias. We'll get into that more so as the show goes on here, obviously.
Well, yeah, because I think both our teams are in a similar, right? Our GM is also on fire watch at this point, one would think. And coach, I mean, our coach technically already fired, but Tracy is playing for the
Well, that's the thing with Alvarez. I don't think we just hired Alvarez, so I don't think
you'll be fine there. We're having even more firing watch than you do, but similar situation where we're kind of got to shake some things up potentially if things don't work out the way that our teams wanted them to, right? Yeah. The one thing that's in your benefit too for Baltimore is that the AL getting a wild card spot isn't super hard to do right now. At least
that's the thing. If they can't find their form, they're not going to get the AL wild card spot. I mean, it's the thing. It's the wild card spot's there for the taking, and they're just not finding their form right now. I think the division's officially done for Baltimore this year. I don't think they'll catch either Rays or New York. I think they'll have to rely on the wild card to get into the postseason. And if that's still doing what they're doing, they're not going to get the wild card. I can tell you that right now. So
for sure. Yep. And that transition sort of well into some of the stuff I was going to talk about with the Red Sox, right? Because I have several news pieces I just wanted to quickly touch base on specific to the Red Sox. One being the talk that they're out there aggressively shopping for a right-handed bat. Which tells me that it's similar to why Baltimore could still be in it. I mean, we still technically are in the wild card race,
Yeah,
even if
yeah,
our record certainly doesn't necessarily
yeah. That's the weird
reflect
thing with the
that.
trade deadline this year too. As we both our teams like,
Mhm.
I don't think in a normal year, I don't think Boston will be buying for a right-handed back. I think they'd be selling something,
You
and I
would
think
think
Baltimore
selling
might
a
be.
lot, yeah, and pretty much, Breslow, that goes along with the additional trade news of Breslow pretty much coming out and saying Whitlock, and Chapman and Weiser are no goes. I guess they've
Yeah.
been called a lot by teams on all three of them, and pretty much
Mhm.
Breslow's been like, absolutely not. They're not. They're non-negotiables, which is interesting as well. I mean, it
Yeah.
tells me that clearly, and some of that may have to do, and quite frankly, for Baltimore too, may have to do with both of these GMs playing for their jobs. They can't
Yeah.
punt on the season because they're trying to save their jobs too. Which always makes it.
Exactly. I think that's why too with the school like Buster only like I was going to talk about there's Tariq Skubal coming back
I
too.
was gonna actually that I have a little question for you at the very very
Yeah.
end about that.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up real quick with Skubal. I think the Tigers might be selling him because of where they're at in the Central,
Mhm.
kind of a situation.
Yeah.
They might sell him, they might not now because of how the Cleveland situation is,
Yep.
and the Royals aren't performing like they were expecting, and
Yeah.
the White Sox and Twins might return to the regression to the means. Kind of a situation with both of those teams, and the Tigers, if they get healthy, they could make a run like they did last year. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Well, that was literally the question I was going to ask you. Was it was just going to be a quick hit at the very
Yeah,
end? I still have a couple other Red Sox things to go over too, so I'll go
yeah,
back. I'll ask now and go back to the Red Sox
yeah.
after. But my question was, it could be just one word. What team is Tarek Skubal on after the once the trade deadline is over and the dust is settled? Name me the team Skubal is pitching for.
I would love to say because Baltimore needs a starting pitcher badly. I would love to say the Orioles, but I don't think we'll go for Scooble. I don't think
Yeah.
we'll go for that type of
Yeah.
rental, because it would be a rental definitely in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I would love to say Scooble's on. Damn, that is a tough question.
It is, right?
That is a
It
tough
is,
question.
right? It's a nice little question there I threw at
That
you.
is the toughest question that you've ever asked me in the few weeks we've done this, on both platforms. I because I don't see Detroit really willing to sell him, even
Yeah.
though he's a free agent after this season and wants that big deal.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think if Detroit gets the right amount of prospects, I think that they will trade him. I think
Mhm.
if anything, I think if he gets traded, I can tell you it's an NL contender, not an AL
Yep.
contender.
Oh,
I think it's gonna
100%.
be one of NL
They won't
contenders.
trade him. They won't trade him in division. And my answer is the Los Angeles Dodgers. By the way, it killed me. I don't want it to be because they eat up everybody. But
Yeah,
just something tells me if Detroit's
I didn't want
selling,
to say Dodgers. I didn't
if
want to say
Detroit's
Dodgers. I'm
selling, the
starting to think
Dodgers are gonna call. Period. They just are. That's just who they
that's
are.
that's
You
who
know.
they are. Yeah, you're right on that. I'll throw a curveball. What if the Braves, with all their
Mm,
pitcher injuries, make the
interesting.
call?
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
the
They've
call
been
to
holding
Detroit.
their own despite all their injuries, right?
Yeah,
I'll look up their IL right now,
yeah.
and see how their
What if
pitchers
yeah,
doing.
what if the Atlanta Braves make that call and get Scooble and really solidify themselves as a contender this
Yeah.
year?
So Strider was placed on the 15-day IL
Yep.
on June 13th.
Yep.
Um,
That was the latest one that happened the other night. He hurt his
and
elbow.
Spencer Schwellenbach is on the 60-day IL still.
Yep.
Um, but those are the only two starting pitchers on the IL for the listed on the IL for them as of right now.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So,
they
but
have a
that
couple of relief pitchers on there as well, but
yeah. But imagine if the Braves were like really think loving their chances this year
yeah.
against the Dodgers team, and we're like, okay, we can maybe give Detroit a few of our top prospects,
Hmm.
and make that move to really compete with the Dodgers.
Yes,
Uh, I think that would be an interesting spot.
it would
I
be.
I really do. In Truist Field, with that offense
Hmm.
and Scoogle, I think the Braves might actually have a shot to beat the Dodgers. I
Yeah.
really do if they make that
Yeah.
move.
They've been very impressive this year with what they've been able to do without their stars, you know.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, with Acuna in and out of the lineup at
yep.
times.
Now
Uh,
they've lost Baldwin. He's
yep,
been out for a while now. Obviously, we just talked about Strider just
yep.
went down. But yeah, man,
And
that was the best.
if Strider comes back and Swallenbach gets back, and then they don't have to give those two up
Yeah,
and have Scoogle, like imagine the Braves. They could
yeah,
win they could win it. They
yeah.
really could.
They could.
So
They could.
I think that's gonna be my pick.
Yeah.
If the Braves
There you
decide
go.
to do it, I think he's a Brave by the end of the
I like
season.
that a lot better than the Dodgers, so I'm hoping you're right and I'm not.
Yep.
That's for sure. Um, but yeah, so cool. I think that's and obviously, anytime Scooble's back and pitching is good for baseball.
Yep.
The more stars that you have playing are good.
Yep.
We'll see. I mean, there's other teams that could be out there. I could see teams that if they could get a guarantee of extending him or being able to extend him,
That's
they
what
might be
that's
more
why I was saying
interested
if the
in.
Braves were
Yeah,
thinking they could get the extension done with
yeah,
him, that with that decision,
yeah,
and if they really think they can go on a run this year and
yeah,
win and potentially win it,
yeah,
those are the two questions for the Braves they would
yeah,
have to answer in
yeah,
any school discussion. And I think that's the thing with the Dodgers and why that's the obvious answer because
yeah.
the Dodgers have the money.
They have the money. They've
Always.
extended players like this before. They've done this exact thing where
Yep.
they traded for a rental and extended them.
Yep. So
It's
the
the type
Dodgers
of
have
thing
the
I
blueprint.
wish, like our teams, like I wish the Red Sox would do this. They have the money to do it and
Yep.
don't. I wish,
Yep.
for your sake, Baltimore would do stuff like this.
Well, that's the thing too. I wish Baltimore would get a legit guy
Yeah,
instead of trying to get Trevor Rod going off of Trevor Rogers'
yeah,
one good year last year,
yeah,
or Kyle
exactly.
Bradish, like I like Kyle Bradish. Don't get me wrong, but he has his moments where he
Oh,
gives up like
100%.
6.
100%. No, your team has for years. It's been where is Baltimore's pitching? Like
Yep.
everybody can see it. And at some point, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and get that guy.
To get a
And I mean,
guy.
I think they tried to a little bit maybe in the offseason this year. But by and large, they go the cheapest route that could still be seen as a
They
good pitcher.
got Chris Bassett when they could have
Yeah,
got Dylan Cease.
yeah,
That's the thing. They got Chris
exactly.
Bassett instead of Dylan Cease.
Hmm.
Like, what are we doing? Like,
Exactly. That's the thing. They try to go cheap. They say, "Oh, this is a good pitcher," and I think they compare it to value, right? Like, is the difference between a Bassett versus a Cease worth the contract difference
mhm.
statistically,
Yeah.
mathematically? But at some point, you just gotta be like, "Yes, it is," because you
Yep.
need that guy,
You
right?
need
Like,
an ace.
even if
You need
even
an
if it's
ace.
a point five
That's
ERA difference,
I'm
it's
tired of Baltimore not
yeah.
having an ace. I am tired
No,
of it.
I know.
I am tired of
I
it.
hear
I am
you.
tired of
I
it.
hear you because I feel the same way with the Red Sox in terms of offense, right?
Yep.
Where's why we keep going cheap on our offensive guy? Where
Yep.
is our guy? We had them. It's
Yep.
even more frustrating for us because we had them. We had
Yeah.
Devers. We had Mookie.
You
Right? They were on
you
our
had
team.
everybody.
Anything.
You had yeah.
Just sign them, So
Yeah.
I get it. Trust me, I get it.
I mean, you won the World Series more recently than the
Yeah.
Orioles have. The
And
last
that is
Orioles
fair.
World Series
I can only complain so much. 4 in the last 20 years, I can't
Yep.
complain too much.
The
I get
last
it.
Orioles World Series was 1983. I
Yes,
was
that is
not
fair.
even an idea yet in my mom's life,
Right.
let alone
Right.
born.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, really quickly, we're about to run out of time, so I'm just gonna quickly give my last couple quick hits with the Red Sox. And this is sort of more about this dysfunction that's going on with the team, right? So it just came out recently that the Red Sox have been trying to get Dustin Pedroia to be in the front office for them,
Oh,
and work with Breslow, and he pretty much straight up looked at them and
like
said, "Absolutely not." He had no interest in working in the front office right now.
wow. That
Which I think,
what do you think? What do you think of that? What do you think of him to reject?
I mean, I don't know whether it's a rejection because, like, I don't know what's in Pedroia's head. I don't know if it's that he just doesn't want to be in the front office or not.
Mhm.
My
Right.
read on it is that he doesn't trust the front office. He doesn't
Yep.
trust ownership. He doesn't trust the front office. He doesn't like the way Veritek was treated, and he
Yep.
doesn't feel comfortable doing it. And
Yep.
if that is the case, if my read is correct, that is
Yep.
really bad for the Red Sox.
Yeah,
Because
that
if
would
you're
be the
looking
worst
at
case
trying to bring
scenario.
people in to work for you, and you can't even get the legends of the team to want to work for you, how are you going to get some random jamoke off of, Milwaukee's front office or off of the Dodgers front office to want to come and stake their career in your front office?
That's the thing. All the recent Red Sox legends, they mistreated Veritek. Pedroia doesn't want the job. Poppy's happy at Fox Sports probably doing coverage for baseball.
They mistreated Cora. One would argue back in the day they mistreated Francona. There's a long list of the Red Sox ownership group doing this, and so that's not ideal. That is certainly not ideal. And then the continuing saga too about news along these similar lines is the Red Sox looking or murmurs of them needing to hire a which may be what this Dustin Pedroia position was supposed to be for, maybe even, but that Breslow needs a translator because he doesn't know how to communicate in between, like what his actual thought processes are. And so he needs a translator hired to be able to communicate these things, which is just mind-boggling. Like, I nothing against anybody that doesn't speak English or anything, but Breslow speaks English. You shouldn't need to hire a translator for him to be able to communicate with his players and with his front office and with the media.
No, I just don't get that at all. If it's a translator,
that is absurd, absolutely absurd. And Sam Kennedy coming out and saying, "Yeah, he's not getting fired," when this is the type of thing you're trying to do, absolutely absurd. It came out that he was actually the one that offered in that ill-advised Dustin May trade where we gave up Dobbs, and he's immediately tearing it up for the Dodgers, right? And apparently it came out, everybody assumed that the Dodgers asked for him. But anyways, that the Dodgers asked for him and he relented on it. No, apparently he was the one that offered that trade, which has me even more concerned about his ability. And you know what? And this is what I said too. Breslow's great at pitching development. I cannot knock that. He has done a great job developing pitching for the Boston Red Sox. Something we haven't done since the early days of Theo Epstein, right? That he has strength. And quite frankly, his minor league system development as a whole is pretty good. But his talent analysis, his roster building, and his communication is so poor that there's just no way you could possibly keep him as a GM in this. I wouldn't mind keeping him as the pitching coordinator for the team or something like that, but it just in his current state, it's just so disastrous. And how can you expect a team like the Red Sox to succeed when you've got this level of dysfunction going?
Oh, it's crazy amounts of dysfunction in Boston right now. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about, for sure.
Yeah, so that was the news I wanted to hit on, and I agree with you as far as not being able to have long winning streaks, right? The Red Sox won the last two against Texas. They're currently losing 4-2 now. Yippee! They were down 4-0 in the first inning, so it's up to 4-2 now. But you have the same issue. Of even.
Granted, I got my loss out of the way. The Orioles played at 1:30 today, so they're that late.
So you don't have to worry. You get the rest of the night. We get to be publicly humiliated on national TV tonight, so that's great.
Oh, I need to look up. There was a game earlier on ABC today. What was that game? It was the I can't remember. Was it Marlon? What was the ABC game today? There was an ABC game that they were blasting about, and I've been watching the World Cup, so I didn't watch the game today, but I'll
I do remember there was a game on. I don't remember which one it was, but I'll look that up. But did you have? While I look that up really quickly, just since we're over an hour here at this point. Was there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to touch base on? Or
I don't think there was anything. I think we've covered most of the big things. Obviously when we got to the Brave side of it, we covered the Strider injury, which could be a devastating blow for the Braves, but they've been still holding on with the injuries they've had all year. So, and even then, Strider wasn't still performing well anyway. When he did pitching. So that was, but I think it was I'm thinking it was like maybe the Cubs.
It was Cubs Giants. Giants. Yeah. Yep. Nope. Because my fiance was talking about it earlier today too. He was watching it, and I completely forgot.
Yeah, Cubs Giants on ABC. That's right. Who won? Who is that game still going, or is it?
No, that's over. All the games are over except for the Red Sox. So if you want to watch baseball, the only thing you're capable of watching right now is
Oh,
the
and the
Red
Guardians
Sox on
Tigers got
NBC.
postponed. So
Yeah,
that game's not in. Oh, so we do have to cover this real quick too. So the
yeah,
Tigers Guardians game that that was supposed to go on today got
yeah.
postponed for rain.
That was Scooble's supposed to be his debut, right?
No, Scoobel pitched yesterday.
Oh, he did pitch yesterday. Okay. Why did
So
my
Scoobel,
I swear my I play fantasy baseball and I
no,
have Scooble on my team, and I got a notification today saying something about Scooble's game being postponed. But I get what you okay. No, it was because his team got postponed.
yeah.
And
So Tigers Guardians got postponed. That makeup date's the 4th of September. The 4th of September. So we're not gonna get. They're not gonna have that game made up till the 4th of September. Probably a doubleheader when those teams when those two play. Again, so or one of those times when they play.
Yeah.
But that's crazy that we're not gonna have that game made up until September the 4th.
I know.
That is insane. That's
It
like
is.
3 months away. Until
It is.
3 or 4 months away. So that game is made up. So
Yeah,
that's insane.
absolutely.
Well, we got that. Yeah. So it's gonna be a fun week. Another fun week. We'll see y'all back here on YouTube, TikTok. I'll probably do and also my Facebook page at Brandon Ellis on Facebook as well. For the because I got three options now for streaming options, and so I liked what I did with Facebook on the basketball pod the other day. So I'll probably do my Facebook page. So it's my Facebook page, my YouTube is Ellis Highlight Reel, and my TikTok is at Ellis Highlight Reel. So those 3 places is where we'll be streaming for the future. I also have to announce I was supposed to do a Friday show. I had to do favors around the house and I forgot to get in mindset of doing it. I think my Friday shows are going to be around noon every Friday. Just to to be with the schedule of high school football and stuff like that. I get that credential. So that's what we're going to do. Friday show. Like I said, tomorrow night is Limited Range Basketball Podcast episode 2 on here. So that's where you can find all the shows. Be my Ellis Highlight Reel to YouTube, Ellis Highlight Reel at TikTok, and then Brandon Ellis on Facebook. I might make an Ellis Highlight Reel Facebook page. But for right now, it'd be just Brandon Ellis on Facebook. Chris, shout out your socials, man.
Yeah. At Christian B 617 on X and pretty much everywhere else, some variation of that lane. I will be writing on some gaming stuff tomorrow. So that'll be on Total Apex Media, specifically Total Apex Entertainment on the gaming section.
On the bottom of Chris's thing is the name. If you want to read his stuff,
exactly.
Of that, and put the entertainment
that out as well. But yeah, otherwise that'll be it. And obviously I'll be back on here next week with you, talking. Hopefully there'll be some more exciting stuff to talk about. Hopefully some positive things.
Well, probably, I think the next couple of weeks we'll have the All-Star situation.
Yeah.
I think around July 4th weekend, Fox is going to have the announcement of the lineups.
Yes. So we can start talking about the players that could be making, and then obviously we'll talk about the snubs because there's always snubs, right?
Yep. And that weekend's episode, the July 4th weekend, will be a big weekend for this stream because that'll be a fun. We might actually also make our home run who will win the home run derby too.
We may even be able to live stream during one of those events. Not obviously we can't show the game itself on here, but we can live stream.
Well, I think it might be a conflict with the. What I might do too, because it might be a conflict with the basketball guys, I might see if they want to move to Tuesday, and if we'll talk about it obviously. So, for sure. For that being said, this is Brandon Ellis for the Ellis Highlight Reel, and I think we're going to sign off. And
absolutely,
peace out, everybody.
Have a good one, y'all. Take care.